stream to basically jump from server to server, one server in Zoom to one server to YouTube, and it's directing. I just want to make sure that it's working, and it looks like it is. Okay, so perfect. Okay, everybody, welcome. I'm glad that you were able to join me this nice sunny afternoon, right? Wherever you are in the world, that's the beauty here. You can be anywhere in the world and you can still be with me, and we'll begin our session. Are there any comments, questions before we begin? Otherwise, you have your TA, Isa, on board, and Ava's our moderator. So if you feel more comfortable just putting that in the chat, you can, and Ava will interrupt me at the right time and just let me know that there's certain questions. Anything else that I need to deal with? Okay, so what I want to do today I want to continue on some of the topic areas. I want to make sure that everybody understands ERPs, that they also understand business analytics. We have the chapter we'll talk about today is Wednesday the 15th. A week from today, we have our exam. And then this Monday, we will have review session, complete review session, and we'll have Kahoot available as well. And Isa will be moderating the Kahoot as well. So let me share my screen. First of all. And Ava, do you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
What do you see on my screen?
The YouTube live stream.
The YouTube live stream, okay. So you have the YouTube live stream, you know that we're streaming, we know that we have a URL. So what you could do as part of your project as well is you could put that as one of your activities as well, of doing YouTube. Some people even did their podcast and uploaded it to their YouTube channel and then presented their podcast in that manner as well. So there's a number of different ways that you can put in your podcast. And then if I go to basically my what's due section, you can see, let me just make sure I have this. My edit mode is off, so it's exactly what you have. You see that last Monday, you were supposed to work on your final project 3, and your final project 3 is what you need to do for your project. The only thing that we haven't set for you is a way in which you're going to be doing a presentation on Monday, the 27th, of how you're going to do your presentation. We'll give you that next Monday. We'll give you the highlights of how you need to present. And then, of course, after you get my feedback, you will be submitting your final recordings with your group before the final exams. So here on the exam, which is April 22nd, we talked about it before. I want you to continue editing and improving your Wix website. And let me just go to the exam for a second, that you can see that these are the chapters, Ava, that we got covered last time. So your next exam will cover chapters 4 and 5, the security in the database that we've already had. It will also cover cloud computing. It will cover artificial intelligence and your, what I call your enterprise resource planning and your business analytics. Today, I want to go into more depth on your chapter, your ERP and your data analytics. We know it's at the same place, the lab, next Wednesday, and we need to come 10 minutes early so everybody's ready, at least 10 minutes early. You can even come a bit earlier if you don't have any class before then. And of course, you need your picture ID and your laptop. Here are additional articles that can help you understand the material, plus will help you for the open-ended questions. And of course, it'll be on cloud computing, machine learning, and the emphasis here is on learning. So different from a traditional spreadsheet is that it will start correcting itself. What is artificial intelligence? And among the artificial intelligence, there's generative AI. We talk about AI agents, enterprise resource planning, and the difference between agentic AI versus generative AI. The generative AI is more in terms of prompts, asking questions, and then getting a response versus agentic. Agentic, the whole idea is doing tasks for you. And a version of agentic AI is using voice, conversational voice, the AI voice agents, and those AI voice agents. And here sometimes they're called AI voice agents, sometimes they're called AI callers, and there's phone numbers that are attached to these AI agents, and the phone number is provisioned to what? Absorb a large language model. It absorbs a large language model, and within that large language model that you have, you also can edit it and create different prompts and different information and train it. And these are the traditional, we went over this. You can hopefully on Monday, you can ask me additional questions. They're happy to go over anything that you want to go in more detail. And you have your 8 questions. How you study for it is up to you. You remember, you can basically, if you think about it, Catherine, you can use any type of aids to help you study. The only difference is on the test, it all has to come back from your mind. You and respondents have to deal with that. Okay, so we got it here. And then under announcements, Isa, do you want to talk about your announcements here?
Yes, sure. So before I had done a tutorial for how to incorporate the Notebook LM podcast. However, my website, I guess because mine is from a year ago, looks a lot different. So the updates look a lot different. So I just went ahead and did a new one with the workaround, the one that Catherine showed us on the button method. So it's super simple and I mean, I really don't anticipate you guys have any issues with it, but if you do, obviously feel free
Yeah.
to text me or
Can you
whatever.
can you be so kind, Isa, and also place copy this and place it, or even tell Lily is
Mm-hmm.
I'd like it to be in the what's due section. So you could even include it in here as an additional when you're talking about it. You could put it either in exam 2 or assignment 2, of update. And I would
Okay.
put it there so people see it there, because sometimes people come in and don't look at the announcements. So
Okay,
I'd
so
like even in here to just tell her, even take whatever it was from the announcement and copy and paste either
okay.
yourself or us
I can
that.
do that right now. That's fine.
Okay, perfect. Vivian, my dear, what question do you have?
Hi, I was just wondering about like the updated tutorial. I was just looking at it, and when I go to to edit my website, I don't have the feature called like button. Like when you click
Under
to
elements, you should have it.
Yeah, you should search it up.
You have
okay.
under elements, you have button under the elements part. So Vivian, why don't we do this? Ian, did you want to showcase yours? Let me
Yeah,
stop sharing.
I could.
Yeah, so let's do this, Ian. Why don't we do this since Vivian, we can go with Vivian's question. Excellent question about she's having difficulty finding a button and a button to attach. And you did the buttons, right, Ian, from the last class?
Yeah, I did the buttons, but I'm not sure if I did it the exact same way. So I was just
Okay,
making
all
sure if you
right.
could
So
follow.
we'll show it. There's different ways to do it, like they say, to skin a cat. So what is So why don't you just go ahead and share
Okay.
what you wanted us to look at and what suggestions you have.
Can
So
you see
this
it?
is your regular one. So what did you do this time that's different from last time?
So last time the get started buttons and like the start your journey buttons like didn't go anywhere. So now when I press it, it'll go to like the service
Okay.
that we offer.
Okay. And what else? And what about those AI solutions? Do they work
And
yet?
when I click
Yeah.
on like, let's say for chat, I click on explore journaling, it'll bring me to like ChatGPT's like website.
Okay. Is that what you wanted it to do?
Yeah.
Okay. All
And
right.
I
Did
added
you
the
do the
phone.
podcast?
Yeah, I was getting to that. I added the phone number down here. That this is
Okay.
what you wanted us to do, right? If we couldn't
Is
get the
is
battery.
this is this your agent?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would have done, and this is for everyone, I would make it more prominent and say, call our AI agent. Put it up
Okay.
there and also put it on the top
Okay.
that people can see it, or even you could even put it on each page, but at least on the bottom and the top, because if I see a phone number there, I think it's a regular, wouldn't you tell they have no idea that's an agent, right? That's an AI caller,
Okay.
right? You agree with me?
Yeah, so
There,
for next time I'll move it to the top and make
make
sure.
it top and make it close and call our AI agent. You know what I mean? That you can put that in and listen to our podcast. Does that work?
Yeah, so what I did is I made it a button and I linked the Notebook LM like thing to it. Is that acceptable or is
Yeah.
it's a different way to do it?
Yeah.
So this is good.
Yeah, that's okay. So let's go to your edit mode so you can show Vivian and
Okay.
others.
Yeah, and this is like the SEO. I did everything
Okay,
except
connect to
that.
search engines. Okay, so you got up to step 4. Okay.
Okay, so the button thing, you just press like the button and then you go to like
Well, where did you find the button? She was having problems finding
uh
the button.
I don't really remember, but I asked like the AI thing to like help me. And I think you
Okay,
press
ask now.
okay, let
Add
me
elements under elements.
oh
Go
there's
to
a
the
button.
see here, add elements. Do you see that, Vivian? Vivian, yes, no? Just to go to add and then add elements. And under elements, there's buttons. You can make them different. You can make them green. You can change the color. You can put it, you can say here, listen to our AI podcast. Great.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Vivian?
Yeah, I looked up button and I just like
Just
clicked
add
the
elements.
icon.
Go to where you see the add there. Add.
Uh-huh.
Click on it again, Ian, please. The
Okay.
add on the upper left. Yeah, see add. You see that on buttons? Search elements, just type in their button. Did you find it, Vivian? And if not,
Yeah.
stay with it. Perfect. And then just bring that over and then attach the link to it. And now you
Okay.
know that already Ian knows how to do it.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And then you can, and you have his email, you can text him. Ian, would you be be happy to help Vivian if she contacts you?
Yeah, no problem.
See, that's how we got to
Thank
do
you,
it.
Ian.
No
See,
problem.
that's how we got to work it out, Vivian, right? We have to help each other, and that's it. So in this case, always doing it. And I appreciate, Vivian, your interest in it, and also Ian, that you took the part. Now, the only other thing I'm going to tell you, Ian, since I have you here, scroll down, give you another kind of thing here. The AI solutions we curate. So I don't understand what you're curating it, and where do you do videos that each individual does videos? Have you done that?
Yeah, we
Where's
we
that
did
in?
the like we put it here like the tutorials, but like we have to like fix them a little bit. We haven't gotten to that yet, but we have like
Okay,
videos for
okay.
now.
Okay, because yeah, and you want to explain what's going to be. And then everybody, when you have your videos, I suggest you redo your videos. You know, once you have it the first, it's almost like you rehearse anything. The first time around is not going to be as good as the second or third. So you want to keep it under 5 minutes, right? You don't want to keep it too long. And also you want to make sure that you're descriptive and that you're in the corner, you show your face. You don't want to show all the time your entire face, but most of the time it's a tutorial, so you want to share your screen. But you want to have that authenticity, you want to have that trustfulness that they see you, that you just didn't get it from someone else, and then you can be in this case. But when you're doing ChatGPT, you have to do something that you're going to have to teach somebody rather than just a prompt. Everybody knows how today. I think everybody in our environment knows how to use ChatGPT. You're going to have to do something that's unique on ChatGPT, some ways that are going to be new in terms of prompting or something like that. Just to say, hey, I'm going to use ChatGPT for journaling, reflections, and so forth. What's unique there? And how is this going to be for my academic success? I'm not sure. We'll talk about that later, whether these are going to be your top ones. But now at least you know how the mechanics work, right, Ian? And now you just have to brush it up and you have everything. And you know now the phone, we're having problems with the AI agent. So on the phone part, you want to make it in larger fonts, call our AI agent. And if it's applicable, use that as one of your services. We can create an AI agent for you. And then in the AI agent, you can show them how to do one. Right? We can as I say, why not use what we've learned already? The same thing with streaming live. If it makes sense, if it's in marketing, if it's in clients, wealth management, we can create it where you can create like a Zoom webinar, and in the same time you can stream live to YouTube. We'll show you how to do it. For what? To retain your clients, to give your clients more in-depth information, to get new clients. These are the types of things. And then the social media has to be continually posting. And in your social media, all of it has to work. And you want to make it alive. You can also take some videos and shorten them, even from some of the tutorials, and use like shorts and a small one for TikTok and others, that you can make them dynamic. And then, of course, at least you should be following each of your group, following each other, and then reach out to your other groups and say, if you follow us, we'll follow you, right? When Vivian asks you, Ian, to help her in the buttons, you say, hey, Vivian, we'll help your group follow. Why don't you come to our group too, and you can help. So we're starting to get it as not only your team, but the whole class as a team. Okay, but that's the same thing. I'll listen to our AI podcast, Ian, if it makes sense. Some of your services don't, but like for marketing and for wealth management or for real estate, we can help you make your own AI podcast like ours. Right. And then you could even have then showing how to do that podcast and how to put those sources in. And also another thing, Ian, when you listen to your AI that podcast, you also want to listen to it, see if it makes sense, shorten it maybe a bit. And then another thing, in your phone, you want everybody in your group to call the phone number and see if it answers like hi, this is Mind Mesh AI, and ask it questions that you had to modify that second prompt, right? That second part, that it would be able to say at least everybody should have who's on the team and what is the mission of this Mind Mesh. Those should be at least two questions that you should be able to show on the day of your presentation, and also in the recording when you're going to do a recording to your investors in your pitch deck. You got it, Ian? So you got the basics, and it's much better than even from 2 days. And that's why we're giving you that stopping point, but now it's refinement. And every time getting better, maybe the pictures later on, that they look like rather than the stock that they just give you an AI. You remember we talked about those pictures, we talked about them. This looks like they're almost depressing, that first one, right? With a chair, empty chair and a computer, right? You
Yeah, I
know,
didn't get a chance to
you know,
screenshot it.
but that's not a big deal. That's easy to do, and you can even generate any of the generative AIs. You can ask, create me a picture, right? Create me a graphic, right? Okay, perfect. All right. Next. Thank you, Ian. And thank you, in this case, Vivian. Anything else? Okay. Any other questions, comments? Brennan, how we doing? Okay. You have a question? Thumbs up, good. So let
No,
me
man,
go.
sorry, my mic wasn't working.
Yeah, I know. Stuff that a lot of things don't work, but that's okay. Okay, what do I want to do now? I want to be able to share my screen. And you see my screen, right, Brennan? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Okay, so let's think about this one. This is chapter 14, artificial intelligence. One of the things that I want to make sure that you understand in artificial intelligence is there's something called expert systems, machine learning and deep learning. Expert systems, as part of artificial intelligence, came about earlier than some of this generative AI has. And what an expert system is, it's software that tries to emulate an expert. So for instance, a lot of times an expert system, let's think about it, Brennan, is like a loan officer. What they tried to do is get all the information a loan officer knows, basically accumulate that into a system, and then an expert system is in a narrow domain, so then you can prompt the expert system to act like the expert, like a loan officer. So the expert system wasn't an expert in every domain. They chose a specific domain and were able then to emulate experts in that field. When was that good? That's good when you don't have access to the expert. You can use the software. It's great for training my new hires to know how to do a certain process. That's what they called an expert system. So that expert system is going to transfer the expertise from an actual domain expert, a person, or another source to the system. And what they're going to be able to do is sometimes, since they're getting the best of many experts and sources that are most recent, sometimes they perform better than any single expert can.
I have a
So
question,
this was
actually.
the issue there. Questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So when in terms of the generative AI,
Yeah.
when you look at the key difference between natural intelligence and then obviously artificial intelligence, you see that artificial intelligence lacks like creativity. Is that where generative AI really kind of steps in because it's kind of creating on
Well,
its own,
generative
or?
AI is part of artificial intelligence. And you remember this table, which is great, where it says creativity can be very high and artificial intelligence is low. Guess
Right.
what? This column is getting better every day.
Correct.
This column now can produce creativity. The only thing is, a lot of times it produces creativity where it's taking it from other people on the internet and using their creativity. That's why if you think about Hollywood, among a lot of the Actors Guild and a lot of the artists in Hollywood and in New York really wanted in their new contracts to say, we want to be reimbursed for the AI. You're taking my work. I'm a creative. I write screenplays. And guess what? You ask AI, what do they need to hire somebody and pay them, $500,000 and have a team of writers? Guess what? I'll get the AI to say, I want a comedy show, with 3 actors, and you give them a whole scenario. And then you could get a show written. But where are they getting their information from? From those actual writers that were from before, and then you even can create a movie that it sounds a little bit like some of these actors. And what do the actors say is, you're taking my voice, you're taking my image, and now I want to get compensated for it. So I must admit that this creativity, where they said it can be very high, that we are creative, right? This AI is getting more creative. And then that generative AI, that's sometimes it comes up with, I was even telling Ian, right? Look at those dull pictures that were there with an empty desk and a chair and a computer, and that's supposed to be inspiring for academic potential. That would say to me, hey, that almost makes me feel depressed just looking at an empty, how lonely is that? So you could even generate, you guys know, you could generate something, generate a song for me, right? The only thing is that inspiration for that true artist, a lot of times, what are they doing now? In the middle, when they get stuck, they say, give me some inspiration. And I know some musicians that have worked with, some Grammy award artists, and they're using AI to help them. And of course, did you hear about there's now AI, AI artists, and it bothers us, right? That they come to the top of the billboards because it's just AI. So what do you think about my explanation?
No, I think that's good. I think it's important to,
You see how
understand, how much it's accelerating on its
it's
own.
accelerating, but where does it get its learning from everything on the web, on the internet, right? It's
Right.
learning.
I
But
mean,
then,
it's really only expanding by our own creativity. So if we're not
yeah,
creating
it's
it, it's
expanding, but then it's coming up with new things, even
correct.
possibly. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
ma'am.
And then that's why it's difficult a lot of times to think about it. Humans are having to work with it. This is the pros and the cons of it. It's not
Right.
all as bringing that up. It really bothers my a group of my musician friends really embrace AI, and a group of my uh, musicians are really upset because they say every schmo now can write a music, can do something, create,
Right.
right? A song. Me and you could create a song in 5 minutes, right? And
That's
now
right.
it's even now they're even having a lot of these Google's doing it, and others, and Sono. You tell her what kind of song, tell me I like house music, and what's the song supposed to be. And I had one of the 2 musicians come in another semester, and they did that. And they got an inspiration from the students. And the student said, nothing really matters. And I'll play it for you. Maybe I'll play for you on the time of the test, when you guys come in. And I thought it was the greatest song. I thought it was so catchy, but they were musicians. They gave it already the chords of what they wanted. So I think
Right.
it came out better than if I would have started it, and it gives you the cover, it gives you the lyrics in a way. For every other, it's great for if you're going to start producing, it's great, but it's for what side, there's pros and cons, everything in life, but it really, and who's going to get compensated? And then but those musicians that really get upset by that, they say, hey, we got to embrace it too, you know and where does it help? So part of it, and I'm always telling my musician friends, Brenda, I'm always telling them, but you're going to create a better song in AI than I am. Even though I love music, I'm not a music creator. So it depends, but it is it is a thorny issue there. So I wanted to make sure that you understood that. And then another thing that I want you to understand, so you understand, so expert systems is systems that can integrate then enormous amounts of data. And what are we trying to do? A narrow domain. So put in your notes here, expert systems are just for a domain expert. It may be for, maybe even if you think about in finance, it may be for certain experts that are working in a certain industry and maybe are just doing options, or maybe doing day trading, or maybe doing swing trading. So those are the experts that you can think about. The difficulty is in transferring that domain expertise. If you have 3 tax experts, right, that know about offshore, let's say offshore tax havens, right? How do you get their domain expertise to appear? So one of the things here, you want to make sure that you're going to get it to appear. So that's the key that you want to make sure that you get. Machine learning, I talked about before, the key for machine learning is it's going to learn. It's going to learn from its mistakes. It's going to get better. And deep learning, you can think about deep learning, it's done a lot with speech recognition. Google was really good about a company in a number of Oxford grads and doing for drug discovery. The whole idea, even with the vaccine, how it came about, usually would take 10 years to come out with a vaccine. They were able to do it in a couple of months. So you can think about those of all of these biases that can happen. The other thing I want to make sure that you understand is the difference between what is supervised in machine learning. Look at the key word. Brendan, you see that key word of learning? What do you know when you learn is that you're going to learn and you're going to get better. So what it'll be is either supervised learning versus unsupervised learning. Put in your notes here, in supervised learning, there's always a human involved to help. In supervised learning, what does this mean? That the humans help train the machine. The humans give it basically the questions and the answers, and that the machines learn based on not only the questions, but the answers. And then you give it, in supervised learning, the human gives it additional data where the human knows what the answer is, but the machine doesn't. And then you can see how well it gets the correct answers. And when it doesn't get it correct, it goes back and say, this wasn't correct. You give it the correct answer and it learns and it finds it. Unsupervised learning sounds like, Vivian, what? If supervised learning, there's a human involved. In unsupervised learning, what do you think, where's the human?
Not involved.
Not involved. So you've gotten to the point where you've created this machine learning and it's going to start learning on its own and finding new patterns. So you remember we talked about that creativity? It basically finds patterns that even humans may not have seen. It's really good in finding patterns in data, finding patterns in images, a lot of times in healthcare, radiology, pathology, where it has to look at different slides. And for the novice, you wouldn't know, but for an expert pathologist or expert radiologist, they know how to find it. So it may be good for training. It also may be good for a backup. That now in a lot of hospitals, they have the radiologist look at it, but they also have the AI look at it. And then if it's in agreement, then they feel more confident. If it's in disagreement, then the human goes back and reevaluates and say, well, hey, why is this? And many times I've worked with pathology and radiology, and I've even seen that sometimes they say, oh my God, I missed it. You know how sometimes you have a bad day and it's right there, but you're not up on it. And also the machine can make mistakes all the time. And that's the problem too, even in generative AI. If you know the topic very well, you can pick up its mistakes. But if you don't, it's very difficult. Now, some of these generative AI are 90% accurate, right? You say 90% is great, but what about the 10%? And if it's 10% of something that really needs an exact answer, if it's life and death, if it's like healthcare, that's going to be important. You have cancer or not. It's a terminal disease or not. It's nothing, or it's malignant or non-malignant. So these are the ideas that I wanted to emphasize you in the types of machine learning, and where you can see that it's almost like decision making. Is the system looking for patterns and massive amount of data? If it is, machine learning is great. I got patterns, it's great. The system's told what to look for, and then you go through their different spots there. So you can see here those application of what's good, where it matters. Neural networks are, what's a neural network? In our brain, we have neurons. And in our brain, basically, we have synapses that basically transfer information. And in this case, notice in neural networks, they're trying to look like it in the brain. But what are they doing? Similar to that learning is they give weights to each what you call variables. Many of you, if you've taken statistics, you have like a dependent variable and a number of independent variables. So for instance, like a loan officer, there's certain weights that they give when they check somebody if they're going to be a good loan. You know, do they own their home? How long have they worked somewhere? Are they, how basically what education they have, and they base it on certain weights to decide what is this a good loan? Will this person pay it back? And then you, of course, you have biases, functions, and that's a problem with learning. A lot of these models is who's writing these models, who's being tested by. They may have biases. So you have among those, you can see here in the neural nets, you have a bias function. And what do? In these functions here, these weights. What are these weights? We continually change the weights. So maybe we could even predict who succeeds here. So Brennan, if we wanted, the university wanted to predict who will really succeed well in the university, they could have certain characteristics. And what they would do then is they put certain weights. Is it the GPA you came with? Is it the curricular activities did you have? A number of different weights. And it could be, in this case, even for employers. What are the weights to be successful? And then once they get the data and they see who was successful versus who was not successful, they start changing the weights. The weights here, and then you have the output. And its connections, and all of these are done basically in these neural networks and these connections, and you can think these connections like the synapses. So that's on the neural network side that they have it. And then, of course, where it's really done major advances is in computer vision. I can even now, right, take my phone and in any of the generative AI say, hey, I have a spot on my hand. What is it? And it can try. And it always says, I'm not a physician. Go see your healthcare, because they want those guardrails in it. And then sometimes I check it out and they're getting better and better. And I know that I had something on my arm, and my dermatologist sent it to who I'm friends with, that we do some AI research together. I said, I think it looks malignant. He says, no, Dr. Rush, it's not malignant. And I said, let's see. He went to the pathologist and they said, oh, it's non-malignant. But guess what? Then I put it into the AI, and it came up with the same diagnosis as the pathologist did. Sometimes it can be right, sometimes it can be wrong. So you got to check in each of these how each of those are setting. So that's in artificial intelligence, what I wanted to show you. The other one, let me see here, is, let me just go through this, is business analytics. This is what you had the last time I showed you. And let me tell you what's the most important here. In business, what's the idea, what we need to do? In business, what makes someone more successful than anyone else? Is they have to make a decision. What should I invest in? Should I invest in project A or project B? Should I add this product or another product? Should I, even when you think of anything, even in school, right? Should I take this course? Should I take this major or another major? We're all having decisions. So think about it in business and even life, right? We're always making a decision. Should I come to the class or not come to the class, right? What does it take for me to get it? So it's basically what we want to do is to get the most information to make the best decision. Why is AI now being embraced so much in business? They don't know really exactly what to do, but why is it being embraced? Because they think it's going to help them make better decisions. And it's going to make them more efficient. It's going to reduce their costs. They hopefully think it's going to increase their revenues. They're going to be able, as humans, possibly to do more of the important work, and the AI will do more of the repetitive tasks. And then it's all based on what? Data. So what you need to know is what is the difference between descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. That's going to be the key. So this was always the nature of this before the big push in the last 2 years of AI was the idea of business intelligence. Notice instead of artificial intelligence, it was business intelligence. But it's all based upon help me as humans make better decisions. That's what you can think about business intelligence. And when you think about a manager's job or anybody's job, right, is they have to make decisions. And in the decision process, here is kind of like a flow chart, right, of the intent. What is the problem? What are my options? And pick an option. Doesn't matter what I decide to do, is what is the, and it's almost as if I want you to do in your project. That's what I want you to do, is you want to address what is the problem that you're going to try to solve for people. Just because you have a business doesn't mean that you're going to help anyone. So you have to decide what it is, and you have to decide what you want to do with those problems. So what they've used, again, in order to help me make decisions, I've been using digital, I've been using IT, and of course now I've been consulting with experts, and I want the computer and the software and AI to help me with those. What's interesting, you can think about, I can have structured issues, just like a database is what's your GPA, right? I can have semi-structured, and I can have unstructured decisions. And also even think about it, the computer was really good to find me all those students, right, with a GPA over 3.5 that are finance majors, right? I can find that easily. What's more difficult, you'll think about in unstructured, is when I have videos, because now you have to have the computer, and later on you're going to have it summarize what are in those videos, what are the issues there. So here there's a framework here of what's a structured, of accounts receivable, those of you that have been budgeting, right? Statistical modules, structured, is not so clear. Should I build a new plant? Product quality, how can I test for product quality? Unstructured could be negotiations, recruiting. And notice even here, they're trying AI to be incorporated in this little bucket here. And in this case, you can see here, neural networks, big data for my enterprise. And you know what enterprise resource planning is basically overlooking the entire organization and helping me, the CFO or the CEO or the HR person, to understand what's happening in my entire organization. So in business analytic process, there's a process. This, do you see this, Vivian? Figure 12.3, that comes from your book. I'd say everybody look at that for the exam. Because what it is what's my business problem? Then I have to get my data. And these are the 3 buckets I want you to understand. Descriptive analytics, and you can put in your notes, is in the past. What has happened? So Ava, if we even just think about data, let's think about my grade book, right? My grade book, right? And in my grade book, it's also your records, right? Of Ava, what you got on test 1, what she's going to get on test 2. So far, it's what she's got on test 1, what's her attendance, and it could be also what you've gotten on all the assignments, the quizzes, right? If I just gave you, take an average of what you've done so far today, that's going to be where? If I take an average of what you've done up to date, is that going to be, Ava, in the past, in the present, or in the future? I give you, if I give your average score.
The present or the past?
The past, right? The present.
Yeah, because it's your past things.
Right,
Yeah.
right. What has happened? So this, the past, is called descriptive analytics, and it includes then descriptive statistics. So maybe in the first exam, the average was, let's say, I'm just making it up, Ava, was 80, right? And let's say somebody in the class got 80 and they said that 80 is a B, right? The idea here is they would then say, what is likely my grade for the next score being? I'm just giving you this. It could be for anything, right? I could then forecast the next day's stock price. I could forecast where our real estate prices going up, but let's do everything that everybody knows. I have here my past. We know that the average, let's say somebody, not you, Ava, somebody in the class got, a student A got an 80. And now we want to predict what they're going to do on the second exam. You with me, Ava?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. If I want to predict what somebody's going to do on the second exam, is that the past, the present, or the future?
Future?
Future, of course, right? What you did before is descriptive. It describes what my data is. What you're going to do in the future is based on data mining, some linear regression, some things are based on all those areas, what's going to be in the future. That's called predictive analytics. You got it? We're predicting what's in the future. Will it be 100% correct? No. This descriptive analytics are correct, right? We can take already, because why, Vivian? This happened in the past, right? I'm not a big genius to say, the average score in the first test was 80, right? Because that's the facts, right? We gave everybody grades and the average score is 80, the pass. But in predictive analytics, I think instead of 80, my average will go to 85. That's what? A forecast, right, Vivian? But we only then can we see after the fact whether I was right or not, or whether the system was right or not. You with me, Vivian? And then there's something called prescriptive analytics. And let's say, Vivian, you were helping somebody. Let's say you got, 98 on the first test, right? And you feel confident and you think you're going to get at least 98 on the second. And then you basically, somebody else got 70. And then basically you could then on prescriptive analytics try to figure out how can that person get a better score. And you may say, how did you do so well, Vivian? Let's say, how did you study for the first test? The things that you got correct, what helped you in the first test?
I went through like the Kahoot that we did in class, and then I also did like a Quizlet of all the like the terms on the review
Okay.
guide, and then I also like looked at all the long answer questions and like had a like not memorization, but like had a good idea of what I would say if I
Right.
was asked
Okay.
any of them.
So that what you did, that would be your prescriptive analytics for that person that didn't do so well. You would, just like, you get a prescription from a doctor and he says, rest, why don't you take some chicken soup, and why don't you take these antibiotics? That's like prescriptive. Statistical feature, or what should we do? So based on what's going to happen, then what should we do? So those are the analytics. Those are the things that you need to know for understanding what business analytics is. And prescriptive analytics, of course, and then you make some recommendations. And then usually as a business, what do you want to do is you want to see how well it worked. And almost like that learning method of what we're teaching the AI, the same idea. We're not going to be exact. Where did we go off a little bit? And then we kind of do it supervised learning, where the human is involved, and then unsupervised learning. So this is the key here of descriptive, predictive, and then here they're showing you of ways in which to present. And then the underlining technologies, right, we talked about powerful chips. We talked about CPUs and GPUs, graphical interface. We need now higher volumes of storage so I can get a lot of data to be involved. Increasing the broadband internet. Remember the neural networks, setting out those, machine learning and deep learning, though it keeps on, it's almost in this way a cycle that it keeps on getting better, and the key is learning. So this, I would say, I would look at all the class. Is this figure 12.3, that business analytical process. And here is the area in which I have, remember the data warehouse, that data warehouse of historical. That's why I'm going over this again. It all blends in. It's getting that historical data that's in that way non-volatile, that stays the same right there and doing it. And then later on, there'll be new ones. What is this? And then those different analytical tools. And descriptive, we talked about it. Decision support, what if, predictive. We're always wanting to know what's going to be in the future. I need to know where I am today. And then I'm going to be able, how well did I do? How well did I do on my portfolio? That's today. What was my average return? Some managers did better, some traders did better than others. Then what do? It's, I'm going to predict what's going to be in the future. And then it's going to be, now how am I going to get there? How am I going to improve? Just like Vivian said, oh, maybe the Kahoot, maybe I'll do the quiz, maybe I'll even use Notebook LLM. Maybe I have those 8 questions. I'll ask some of those other programs to be able to see it. Okay. And the other part, just so you know, here, let me just see what I'm missing here. And the other part was on chapter 10, which called information system, is the idea of transaction, processing systems, functional areas, enterprise resource, and ERP. Transaction, everybody knows what a transaction is. A transaction is an event. If I go to CVS and I scan an item, right, I do it on my own, right? They send me over there, right, to scan an item. That one item is a transaction. And my transactions can be online or they can be set as a batch, like payroll. I don't get it constantly. I get it at the end. And then they have functional areas. And what are functional areas? Just like the School of Business. They have accounting. They have, let me just do this. The transaction, what is important about the transaction? Think about it. It's a business event. I have the transaction. And what is this? If you ever see a cylinder here, what does this look like? This cylinder, Catherine, is a database. So I put all my data in here, in my database, and then I get detailed portions of it. And these are how I respond to a database. And guess what? I have different functionality. Doesn't this look like very similar to almost our School of Business? Accounting and finance, marketing, productions, human resources, and all of these have information systems. And what is important is this. An enterprise resource system is so I can see an organization, a large organization. I can have an overview and know what each department is doing in my organization. And we can share resources that they don't become duplicate. So they're designed then to get an overall picture of the enterprise. Question. So I think in summary, we know that we have to keep on updating our project. We knew that we can just add in elements. If we couldn't get that podcast, we can just adapt it as a link. Isa has put a video on that. And then we talked about artificial intelligence and supervised and unsupervised. And what's the key for artificial intelligence and machine learning is the word learning. It keeps on getting better. And then in analytics, we talk about the past of descriptive, the present, and then the future as predictive. And I want to get a solution and find out how to get better. It's prescriptive. Okay? So Isa, do you want to be so kind and give people the code? The secret code? And we'll stay afterwards and answer any of your questions. We'll see on Monday. Bring your questions about the exam on Monday. We'll do a Kahoot. Vivian seemed like that was useful, so we'll try it again on our prescription. You're giving us one of the prescriptions there. Let's see if the Kahoot will help us. I'll answer any of your questions. And also on Monday, I'll give you the guidelines on what you need to do with your presentation and also what you need to do for your final upload for your project. Did you put in the code?
Yes.
Okay, 4128. See everybody, stay with me if you have additional
Thank you.
questions. Thank you for your questions and your participation. And Ian, it was great. Much improved, right? And I appreciate that you want the feedback. That's something right there. It's almost like machine learning of keeping on wanting to get better. Okay.
I had another question.
Okay, so let me just stop the